Good morning, everyone. Happy Halloween. Here's one of my favorite Halloween songs. I'm not going to play it because YouTube will get mad at me or whatever. So link is in the description. Go have a listen to Say Halloween because, man, my daughter plays it now and it's kind of funny. So what are you going to do? It's kind of cool. Here is just a reminder that Build Back Better, the slogan and political movement that is Build Back Better, is not just Canadian. There's Joe Biden. He's got Build Back Better. Boris Johnson, Build Back Better. Jacinda Ardern, I think that's how you say her name, Build Back Better, and I think that's who that is. There's many examples of this around the world, and well, here's another. Conservative Party of Canada, right? The Liberals want to build back better. Conservatives will build back stronger. You know, guys, I think they're getting this Build Back Better thing. Maybe we should change it. Yeah. Stronger's great. No, they won't notice. Really? The deer in headlights look, I think, is appropriate for Ms. Freeland here. It says, CTV News, watch live. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland delivers a virtual keynote speech on Canada's plan for a strong economic recovery from COVID-19. So the plan, it seems, is built on increasing immigration, which seems odd, and I'll show you why that seems odd in a minute. But I went to try and watch this speech to give critique on it, right? Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister, whatever. And it just goes to an empty video feed. So fail on CTV News' point. But the plan is basically we're going to keep spending because it's working. That's essentially what she said. And here's Blacklock's reporter saying senators, including Liberal appointees, getting nervous about secret borrowing and spending, haven't seen a Finance Canada update since August 6th. So that's problematic, right? And it's been a rocky go since then with the WE investigation, and Bill Morneau being removed as the finance minister and as a cabinet member, as a caucus member. He's just gone out of the House of Commons, just like Scott Bryson, right? If Scott Bryson hadn't resigned, then Jody Wilson-Raybould would still be the Attorney General. We just need a cabinet shuffle. Just need to shake things up. Here's Laurie Goldstein. He says, didn't Chrystia Freeland just say that COVID-19 emergency spending was not to become permanent? Justin Trudeau's government considering allocating billions in annual permanent spending for new programs, according to a senior government official. And I'm not one for the unnamed sources, but everybody's doing the unnamed sources. To me, it seems like there's obvious questions that aren't being asked. Right? Like there's serious questions that are just being completely ignored in favor of like the flowery language. I'll give examples when I run into it. Trudeau considers adding new social programs to the fiscal plan. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is considering allocating billions in annual permanent spending for new programs that may be disclosed as early as next month, according to the senior government official. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and fiscal statement at the end of November could include details on government funding plans for childcare, prescription drugs, and other long-term priorities, the official said, speaking on condition they not be identified because they aren't authorized to discuss the plan. In July, the Canadian government estimated the budget deficit would soar to $343 billion this year, or 16% of total output. It has since announced another $40 billion in additional spending. So to me, it's interesting that it seems like the opposition is so inept, despite being a minority government, that they don't see any way to stop this Trudeau government. And it would seem to me that a budget would be an easy ask. A budget would be like, you've got this long to deliver a budget, and if you can't deliver a budget, we're going to bring the government down because that's not competent. We don't have confidence in a government that can't produce a budget, regardless of the, outstanding, unbelievable time we're in, and unprecedented times, I think is the words they try to use. The opposition could have leverage, and they could share that leverage with the Canadian people and say, listen, we know there's problems with the WE documents. We know that blah, 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 blah. Here's what we've said to the Liberals. And that is the use of the bully pulpit. But I mean, whether or not that's going to work, I don't know, right? I don't know. And I have my doubts. How's that? I have my doubts. Here is Lloyd Longfield, my MP, and he equates what the Conservatives did to the redacted documents, throwing them on the floor, as awful. If he was a elector, and he is, he would have a problem with this. Would you redact a Bible or a Quran or any of those texts that you're referring to? Would you redact all of those texts? Because you did that to the documents. causing Mr. Polyev to throw them on the floor. Logic isn't really great with these guys, is it? Here's Aaron O'Toole. During what are becoming routine antics for the Liberal Party at the Finance Committee, Guelph MP Longfield compared government documents to sacred religious texts. The Liberals need to stop making absolutely ridiculous claims and give Canadians the answers they deserve. Here you go.
If you think of documents in some of the faiths, the major faiths of the world, they are sacred. And it would be like me standing up at Mass and being a lector, which I am, and pulling pages out of the lectionary and throwing them on the floor. The documents that we rely on need to be treated with respect. And to see that throwing them all over, throwing them on the floor was disrespectful for the documents. It would be like taking the Quran or the Sikhs' sacred writings or the Torah and disrespecting it. These are the documents of Parliament that we have to respect, and the people behind those documents have to be respected. So page 51 of
point
the
of
PCO
order.
document.
What's your point of order? Point of
page
order.
51 of the PCO
relevance, but I also think Mr. Longfield is becoming a little bit offensive.
Just hold on, Mr. Longfield. Wait till we.
Yeah, it's a little bit offensive. Sorry, I realized that I brought up a screen on top of this. I just realized that the usual hard drive I use isn't plugged in, but I'm still recording. So I'm hoping that I have enough hard drive space to finish this off, but I apologize for interrupting. Anyway, that's a really interesting thing, right? Like he's saying, I think this is a little offensive. I think that it's funny, and I made the point before, but I think that it's funny that Mr. Longfield didn't make the connection that you wouldn't redact, Bibles and things, right? Like, and in the action of redacting the documents, you've kind of made the tome of documents useless, worthless, right? A redacted Bible, is a redacted Bible a Bible? Is a redacted government document sacred? Is a government document sacred at all? Here's moving on, right? That's just ridiculous. And this goes to what lengths the Liberals are willing to go to shut down this search for documents, right? This was the 29th. Today's the 31st, obviously Halloween. Here's roughly 1.6 million Canadians are anticipated to receive up to $600 payment, which the Parliamentary Budget Office says will cost the federal Treasury $792 million. This was delayed in June and July because they couldn't find the opposition to support more spending, and it's been a battle all through the summer, right? For accountability, for whatever, and the Liberals just keep seeming to skate on by, don't they? It's incredible, right? Here's the Toronto Star. They're reporting Canada recorded the lowest population growth in the second quarter of 2020 and must decide if immigration will be the savior to the country's economic recovery amid the pandemic. Here's the Toronto Star, and it says Canada plans record levels of immigration in roadmap to post-COVID-19 economic recovery. And yeah, I mean, here's Mendocino, and he's a pro, man. It says, quote, before the pandemic, our government's goal to drive the economy forward through immigration was ambitious. Now it is simply vital. They're using COVID-19 as an excuse to say that it is vital to increase immigration. Before the pandemic, the goals for 2021 and 2022 were 351,000 and 361,000. 2021-22. Now, in 2021, it's 401,000, and in 2022, it's 411,000. So that's an increase of 50,000. Why are they increasing right now? According to the plan. So it just goes through that. It says the previous multi-year plan, blah, 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 what I just told you. While experts had expected Ottawa to stay the course with its immigration goals, given the government had publicly stated immigration would be the key to restarting the post-COVID-19 economy, they were surprised the Liberals would decide to take it up a notch. Yeah, and why are they surprised? Why? Well, here's the 25-year unemployment rate, right? Yeah, right? And if the unemployment rate were up around 10%, as it was in 1996, right? And they don't want to make comparisons to the 90s because the fiscal landscape, that's the word they use, fiscal landscape is very different now. But if it was up 10%, would they be doubling down on increasing immigration, right? And, I don't know that where we're at is where we should be doubling down and increasing immigration to record levels record levels. Doesn't seem like the right roadmap to recovery to me. Here's Ahmed Hassan. He says, amazing news from Catherine McKenna. Our government is investing $19 million to help create jobs in the area while reducing the impacts of flooding in our homes. They're talking about a bridge, but I noted they're not 6 feet apart and they don't have masks. It's very interesting. Rules for you guys. Don't forget your masks. It's a post-apocalyptic world out there with COVID-19. You might just survive it, right? Very, very, very interesting. Aaron O'Toole has been giving speeches. He says he was giving an interesting speech to the Canadian Club right now, says Brian Platt. He says, calling for better conditions for workers. It includes a section bemoaning the falling rate of private sector unions. Yeah, it's interesting. He also talks about the over-reliance of China. Another section of O'Toole's speech says we've gone too far in outsourcing manufacturing to China, particularly on sensitive items like drugs and protective equipment. Free markets alone won't solve our problems. Full story coming shortly. Yeah, it's interesting. And then here's the full story. O'Toole slams outsourcing to China, calls for better conditions for workers. That's an opinion piece for John Iveson. Lily says, moving to Ontario, restaurant heavy hitters say it's time to reopen. Representatives of some of the biggest names in Ontario's restaurant industry are calling on the Ford government to let them reopen after data was released this week showing few outbreaks occurring in food establishments. I scroll down. Paul Boner, I believe that's how you say that, CEO of SIR Group, the company behind brands such as Jack Astor's, Reds, Scatterbush, and Dukes, said the government has clearly made decisions about his industry without any fact-based data. He estimates his company has spent more than $500,000 on health and safety measures to keep clients safe, only to see their locations in Toronto, Ottawa, Peel, and York shut down. They didn't show the data, Boner said. I believe they unfairly targeted restaurants, and so do other people. Here's Patrick Brown. The reason I wanted to show you that was because of the amount of money it costs to do this, and it does cost a lot of money. And this is profit that is not able to go to jobs. It's profit that's not able to go back into the business, to expand the business, to create more jobs, et cetera, et cetera. It's money that just goes to making people feel safe, operating costs. And yeah, those costs are usually just part and parcel with doing business, but that's not great. That's not a great excuse. It's not enough, right? So, and to punish business, small business, while everybody else kind of gets a full paycheck, it doesn't incentivize people to get into small businesses that could be unilaterally shut down for any reason. Here's Patrick Brown. He says, good article by Brian Lilly. Let's find a safe way to reopen restaurants. If it means smaller capacity limits or earlier closing times, we can make that work because patios in winter won't save our restaurants from bankruptcy. My heart goes out to these small businesses. I just think it's funny that politicians can say, you know what, no problem, we can lower your capacity in order to help you open. Well, great. Like, my restaurant works on a, 2 to 5% margin, 5% being a really good margin. And I can't have a full capacity dining room. If I do have dining room, people have to wear masks. If people aren't wearing masks, I have to get my back up about it because I'm going to get fined or whatever. Like, this is anti-business, anti-freedom. People should be allowed to assess their own risk, be able to make choices about their body with regards to health and medical interventions, and not have mayors pretending to be bleeding heart for small business when in fact they're saying, yeah, we'll totally cripple your business and try to let you open, but we're just going to keep layering on the restrictions until there's no possible way you can survive. Because that's what's happening. There's no possible way a business can survive this. Ford, CTV News is reporting Ford facing internal anger over whether he should have closed indoor dining and gyms. Sources in the PC government say there's anger among some caucus members because MPPs have specifically been asking public health officials for a detailed breakdown of where new cases have been originating from and only received that information when it was made public on Thursday. Yeah, that's annoying. Yesterday was the first time that caucus saw any numbers that were broken down by setting, one source told CTV News Toronto, speaking on the condition of anonymity. So take it with a grain of salt. It may be complete fiction, maybe a lie, okay? The data has led to internal questions about whether Ford and his cabinet has access to the granular data before moving Toronto, Peel, York, and Ottawa back to modified stage 2. On Thursday, Dr. Williams defended his modified stage 2 recommendations and pointed to the risk posed at bars, restaurants, and gyms. We didn't particularly pick one side or another, Dr. Williams said. We're picking those settings where it's indoors, where people are unable to mask for long periods of time. If you unmask to eat, how does the virus know that to stay away because you're on an airplane and eating? Like, show me the outbreaks that have originated in airplanes, please. Show me the numbers, because they're lying. They're lying. National Post is reporting cancellation pushback. If authorities keep rolling out the holidays, people will stop listening. I think people could be helped with better information and better options. That will be enough for a lot of people. This is one of those articles that the headline is the best part of it. The rest of it is like controlled opposition. Like, I've said before, it's not healthy to like itemize all the things that are wrong. Like, oh, does your stomach feel a little weird? Yeah, that might be COVID. And does your nose feel a little weird? And is maybe one eye a little blurry? Yeah, I mean, you might be sick. You might be sick. If a steady enough diet of that, and you start believing it, right? So if you start reading that, just throw it out, toss it away. And that's kind of what this reads like to me. I was like, I don't believe you. And I don't like all of the comparisons they were drawing. The headline was the best part of the article, because it's true. People are just going to stop listening. People are going to stop listening. And better information and better options. The information we're getting is bunk. At base, it's bunk. The Toronto Health admits that people who die with COVID are counted as a COVID death, as per the WHO recommendations. They're pushing people into long-term care homes and then saying, oh, the rates in long-term care homes are going up in Quebec, right? The information at core is suspect, and that's a problem, right? And then they scrub it when it starts to paint a picture they don't like. Here's Miss Tam. We have 8 months of data of things that have happened. We have states that have opened that have a population that's almost comparable to Canada, right? But certainly comparable to major cities, etc. We can look at what actually happened in those places instead of looking at flawed models. They haven't been right, not once. Even the best case scenario models is being beaten in Ontario right now. And they're saying, well, we need further lockdowns. We need further lockdowns, more lockdowns. It's just incredible. It's offensive because they're treating us as if we're stupid. But they're saying the modeling indicates that at the current rates of in-person socializing, Canada could see COVID-19 case counts increase to 8,000 per day come early December. How many tests per day will we increase by then, Miss Tam, Dr. Tam? It's the same graph I always show. Even if cases, like right now, we've got more cases than we had here, okay? Just to put that into perspective, more cases per day here than here. And I didn't map the cases per day. These are the tests. Oh yeah, these are the tests per day. Right? More tests per day here than here, right? And I don't have the cases. I don't have the positive cases, but the positive cases don't take into account symptoms. If you're asymptomatic and you test positive, you're still a case. How does that make any sense? Are you sick? No. Why are you testing? Because you have to test to go visit your grandparent or whoever. It's suspect. It's suspect. Here's Randy Hillary. He says, read this important letter from a registered nurse, RN, to Ford Nation and MPPs regarding our COVID-19 policies. Quote, now I'm baffled, confused, and to be frank, extremely angry. Speak out. Contact Ford Nation, your representatives and health unit. Like Joyce, let them know how you feel. I read this letter. It's heart-wrenching. And this person has been a nurse for 48 years, and she continues to work part-time. She talks about how the masks don't work or are ineffective or are being used incorrectly despite being mandated. She talks about the crushing loneliness of people in long-term care and window visits. She talks about there's no consistency between homes and activities, so people are just lazing about in bed and not able to do anything because there's nothing to do. She talks about people being fed and Remembrance Day. Well, she talks about communal meals and waiting for visits from family members and how the communal meals used to be, with people, and now it's not. The difference in life and the absence of a purpose, and that's crushing to people's mental health, right? It's an interesting letter. Go read it and then forward it to your MPP. It's very, very. We shouldn't be isolating people, and the associated fallout with that, if it's much worse than this virus, right? And my goodness, I'm glad there are people who are speaking up, and I'm glad there are people like Randy Hillier who are putting it out there, right? Here's an interesting situation, right? Here's the Globe and Mail, and I like memes like this. It's very punchy, right? You've got LeBron James emerges as potential political force ahead of U.S. election, right? He can be a political force, and Colin Kaepernick is suddenly a hot commodity, right? If you want to boost your political showing, right? Rams players raise arms during intros and show solidarity for Ferguson protesters, right? All of this politicization of riots. But if Bobby Orr endorses Donald Trump, the Globe and Mail says neither Bobby Orr nor any other star athlete should be leading the political conversation. Why not? Why not, Globe and Mail? You've celebrated this for years, right? Listen to these guys. These guys are the smart ones. I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe they're not. Thinking that maybe money talks. Here is conservative senator leader backs Trump for re-election. This is news, right? It's news. This is interesting. Here's a Trump parade being led by the Biden bus. And I'm just going to, this is through, I don't know which, I guess it's Texas. And they've got a hashtag follow the bus, but they're following Joe Biden's campaign bus because, this is, I guess, the third video. And this is a thing. I watched them on the highway. Maybe I'll look for the better video. Hold on. Here's the better video on the highway. And they've got like dozens of big pickup trucks with big flags pacing the Biden bus. There's tons of here's a better one. There's tons of videos of this happening. I think he's trying to get it on the other side, or it's a bad lane change. I don't know. Better flag video. Sorry, I was spending so much time on this, but the other video was queued up, but now isn't.
Hey everyone!
All these Trump flags are pacing the bus, and that's funny, right? Like, that's very interesting. And Joe Biden is glitching on an unbelievable level. Here he is at a campaign event yesterday, and I saw this and I was like, really?
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international.
I think he's trying to say true international something. I don't know what he's trying to say, but that's not great, right? That's not great a couple of days before the election. So, and neither is having Trump flags surround your bus, right? I mean, there's not a lot of enthusiasm, and the media is trying to suppress that. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing. There's the American election happening in 4 days now. Halloween happening tonight. Clocks going back, maybe for the last time tonight in Ontario. Anyway, they're teasing it. They're talking about it. There's legislature. I think there's been legislature every year talking about that. Trudeau says Alberta government fanning the flames of political division. I don't know about that. Maybe pot. This is the kettle. You're black, right? Your black face. I don't know. Whatever. But what is swirling around in the world, I think everybody's just kind of waiting with bated breath for the end of this election, this American election. And who knows if it's going to even have a satisfactory end on November 3rd or November 4th, like the early hours of November 4th. I don't know. Who knows? Because, everything else has been so crazy, right? So why would the election be anything different? So thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry, I'm recording onto a different hard drive, so I've been worried that I was going to get a notification that I'm out of space, like constantly, because I feel like I'm almost out of space on this drive. So I apologize if I've seemed a little distracted. That's probably because I've been a little distracted. I'll try and do better tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And yesterday I was on with Mark Friesen as well, and it was fun. We chatted about a whole bunch of stuff. We chatted for about an hour, so I'll leave the link in the description as well if you want to check that out. And thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.